Do you like movies and games also? Listen, so much more, they all know. Vice, Pyro, Lotus and friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 123, the podcast where we learn how to count. The podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I apologize. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is
Lotus Prince.
And someone who always talks over Vice. You know
I think we have a problem with talking over each other in general. But...
Yeah, I was going to say, wow, apparently my voice got deeper.
But you'll have to stick around for the Corrective Consciousness episode ABC for the
I was waiting for something like that. Yeah.
440,
so anyway.
404.
Oh, you're not finding that one.
that was
good
lost.
one. Good one. All right. So anyway, having all these really great retro collections pop up as of recently, the Castlevania one on PlayStation 4 and the really great SNK one that just came out, as well as, individual arcade releases, especially on the Switch. I've been really thinking about what collections I would really love to see and what features and games you would like to see them have, even if they're like pie in the sky ones, ones that you never know, you never think would ever happen, because of licensing issues, that kind of thing. I'm interested in hearing
like a Super Smash Brothers collection or something, where it's like
Well, that one will never happen because it's iterative, right? So
no, but I mean in the year 2050, re-releasing Smash Ultimate with all those music licenses and character licenses.
Oh yeah, that's never gonna happen. But even above that, Nintendo's never gonna re-release Melee because they want you to play the new one and they don't want you to keep playing Melee on. There's a reason why it's locked to the GameCube. But anyway, it was very unusual for them to even release it on the Wii when that was when the original game was put on there. I guess some people still like the original Super Smash Brothers a lot, but Melee's like the big one, and if you give it to them now, they'll never buy a new one ever again. So just the people that like Melee really, really, really love Melee and don't want anything else. I am not one of those people, but that's besides the point. I wanted to start off by saying everybody knows that I'm a big shmup fan, and I would love to see a couple shmup collections in general to get this off the ground. There is, I think, a lot of really great shmups that Capcom has put out that have not gotten their due. Because of the fact that they were developed not by Capcom but published by them during their Dreamcast era, kind of. So a lot of their early shmups are very easy to get. Like you can get 1942, you can get 1943 and 1943 Kai as well, very, very easily. Those games have popped up on collections recently, as recent as the Capcom arcade cabinet for PlayStation 1 PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and it's even on Xbox One because of backwards compatibility there. So you could play a lot of their early shmups, which are great. I actually love 1943 a lot, and 1943 Kai. However, their sequels are very elusive. So 1941, I believe, only really has a port on the Super Graphics of all things. I don't think it's very easily found on many collections. So that is a very disappointing fact, because it's on the Capcom Classics Remixed on PlayStation 2. So it does have a collection release, but I would like to see those games put in HD. Those two collections, the Capcom Classics collections for PlayStation 1 and 2, and then their PSP counterparts, were very, very good for the time. But I would like to see modern versions of it. Now, there are two other games in the series that have never gotten translations at all. And that is 19XX, which is when they decided to not have any affiliation with World War II anymore. And that game is really good. It's probably my favorite in the series. And then the same company that made 19XX, which is called Rising, they ended up making a game called 1944, which I believe is the last one they ever made in that series, other than Joint Strike, which is kind of like a throwback to the original game. So you have two major entries in the series that have never gotten console releases, and it's a big shame because they're really, really good games. And there's also Gigawing 1 and 2, which were releases on the Dreamcast, which I really think could use an HD update. And then there's also Mars Matrix. Go play Mars Matrix. Mars Matrix is another amazing game that Capcom helped publish back in the Dreamcast days. It has not gotten an HD release, so it's a big shame. So those are that's my big pick for what I'd like to see. Now that Capcom put forth the effort to put out the really awesome beat 'em up collection that they put out recently, that collection's really great. And they even right before that had put out the Dungeons and Dragons beat 'em up collection, which was great too. Yeah, so Capcom has been very good about re-releasing their titles and making sure they're updated. But I would like them to continue to put out games that they haven't done before, or might be a little bit more challenging for them. How about you guys? Do you have any collections that you would like to see?
Well, one that I know isn't going to happen because it kind of can't happen would be the Golden Axe quadrilogy, just to include Revenge of Death Adder. I know that 1, 2, and 3 aren't even really that hard to get, but Revenge of Death Adder is just not happening. Yeah, you can find those on
collections. You can find those on collections right now.
Yeah, they're actually really easy, but Revenge of Death Adder is just not there, and it won't be.
Yeah, and I don't understand it. That's one of the big arcade games that.
Well, didn't they lose the source code or something?
Yeah, but they could deal with that. They could dump the code off of a board. I mean.
Oh, okay.
So they don't have the original source code for remember that Skyscraper game that I was talking to you about, the Nintendo one, the arcade game that they found basically in the Nintendo headquarters that never got an official release until recently. Mm-hmm. All they did was dump the ROM off of the machine. So it wasn't like they still had the source for that, you know.
But one thing that I actually originally thought of as a joke, but the more I thought about it, the more it actually made sense. You know how Tempest 4000 recently came out on PS4? Oh, yeah. The thing is, I don't even personally care about the Tempest series, but
I do.
They are good games. It would actually be really cool to also see the Tempest quadrilogy, just to get fucking Tempest 3000 off of the new one. You know, get an actual make it playable for real.
Yeah,
you could almost release it as it's not quite never released, but it's close enough.
Yeah, and then have a special unlock for TXK, which is locked to the Vita right now.
Or in a similar vein, games that are never gonna come back, the CDI Zelda trilogy. Make it happen. Now, what we need is a dual pack. We need Final Fantasy VII and Ergeis.
What?
God bless the ring.
Ergeis. God bless the ring.
I can't understand what you're saying, but
I can't either. It's ERGHEIZ, Ergeis. I don't even remember what kind of game it is, but Final Fantasy VII characters cameo in it.
It's
a fighting game or something. Yeah.
It's a fighting game that's kind of similar to Power Stone. You run around an arena and you fight
Cloud
each
and
other.
Sephiroth are playable.
Yeah, and Tifa.
Oh, Antifa? Okay. Yeah, it's just like...
No,
what?
or was it Yuffie?
I have no idea. I thought it was one of Cloud and Sephiroth.
Yeah. So, but no, I definitely get that for sure.
No, but as far as collections, you really can't get easily, though. Like, bringing back Revenge of Death Adder would be freaking amazing, although that barely counts as an answer, because, again, Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3 are very easy to get now. Actually, what I really would like to see is a re-release, and, well, mainly, this is more of a localization issue than a compilation issue, but I would love to see localizations of the Yakuza PSP games and that feudal PS3 game.
Yeah, and there was a feudal PS4 game as well.
There you go. So, like, yeah, a PSP dual pack, a feudal dual pack, make it happen.
Yeah, especially now that Yakuza is a well-known brand in the United States.
Yeah, they were able to release Fist of the North Star Yakuza over here, so I think that's kind of the point where it's like, yes, America will eat this shit up.
Yeah, no, it's definitely gotten that point. Go ahead.
Just wanted to say I see clips of that game. It's like, I think it was Kenshiro making cocktails for some reason.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, keep in mind
that one.
in the real Fist of the North Star that would never happen.
Ever. They had bartenders, but like fucking never.
That's why it's funny.
Yeah.
Also,
you are already drunk.
Yeah.
You spilled my ramen.
What are you gonna do about this ramen?
It's my favorite Kenshiro moment, and
it's not even Kenshiro.
It's not even Kenshiro. It's Kenchiro's uncle.
Yeah.
But he's Kenshiro.
Ramen?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely read Fist of the Blue Sky. Yeah, it is a prequel to Fist of the North Star, but it takes place in like 80s Shanghai, I think, or what was it? Not Shanghai. I don't know. It's definitely an Asian city. I just forget which one. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. It's just amazing, and it's just really really cool. I like it better than the dystopian like Fallout kind of Mad Maxian kind of future for it.
But the thing with Fist of the North Star is it starts off that way, where it's like goons attack, kill them, but once it actually gets a plot, it gets pretty engrossing.
Yeah. Yeah, Fist of the Blue Sky. Jeez. Yeah, that was a great series. I read only a little bit of it. Yeah, it's in Shanghai. Okay, great. I was worried, but anyway, I think that would be a great series as well. To do this for I mean, they are doing like up-res collection of 3 through 5, right? Isn't that what they're doing?
Yeah, actually, speaking of they're never going to be able to re-release Super Smash Brothers because of all the licensing. Like Yakuza is another one of those series, so it's really cool that they're re-releasing 3 through 5, and I think when they release 3, it's going to be like the unbutchered 3, which would be amazing.
Yeah, which
like
is
4 and 5,
the version I've always
just the
wanted.
Same exact games, only on PS4 instead of PS3. So like if you've played it before, then you've played it. It's not like
run better.
Like whatever, it's the same thing.
I just think they run better, something like that. I don't think they're 3 is the big one because it'll I think have restored content, and it had a lot of cut content. Yeah, no, they said that they were doing that for that release.
Yeah, like that was bad to the point where Sega apologized publicly for it. Like I actually saw an interview. There was an interview with like a Westerner and real life Yakuza, like seeing how accurate the Yakuza games were to real life, and the actual Yakuza like played the games and everything and like talked about it, and they were like, well, Kiryu's manner of dress makes no sense, but the cutscenes with like the different personalities is like real life. Like Kamurocho, where Yakuza 1 takes place, is like dead on for its time. But the funny thing was the subject of, because this is when Yakuza 3 was new, the subject of America's localization came up, and like real life Yakuza were like, wow man, Americans really got the short end of the stick on that one. Just like, how depressing is that? Like actual Yakuza are like, man, sucks to be you.
Wow.
Finger cutting, yeah.
Oh yeah, pinkies, right? Isn't that what
Yeah,
they do?
actually, yeah. Well, not necessarily pinky, just a finger. But the fun, probably pinky because you still need to be able to use your hand. But the funny thing was, regarding like the violence, even though it's like the primary aspect of Yakuza, the real life Yakuza were like street fights, especially that frequently, would never fucking happen. Like that's ridiculous. Like
yeah, because you'd be a serial like beater upper, you know?
yeah,
like
they said like
you'd
if
be
Yakuza
rampaging through
ever
Tokyo.
did fight like for real, it would have to be a very very serious reason for that to happen. And even if it did, number one, not everyone's a martial artist. Number two, it would probably be whoever got the first punch would probably be the winner. But
Yeah,
not to mention,
that's
they
how
mentioned
real
like
fights work.
they mentioned you would get arrested immediately for what you said, Vice, being like a serial like assaulter. But not only that, but one of them mentioned you might even get whacked by one of your own men for like causing all sorts of shit all the time. It's like, dude,
in the public
come on.
too. Yeah,
Also,
in the public too. They want to
beating
lie
each other
low.
with bicycles.
Yeah, well, no, actually, no, they did say, like, that was semi-realistic in that, not the bicycle part, but, like, grabbing whatever's around and hitting someone with it, like, that does make sense. Bicycles would probably be too cumbersome, but the principle made sense, which I thought was rather interesting.
Also, there are no heat moves in real life, so you're not going to...
Yeah, you don't get blue fire around you and start wailing on people.
Not going to punch out someone's spine through their asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But Yakuza has so much licensing, though, and it's only gotten more and more with, like, Yakuza 6 with, like, real-life people that show up in the game. Like, Paul Lim,
with,
the
like,
darts
the
champion, and, like, all
stuff.
those characters from, like, New Japan Wrestling.
Yeah, and they're hosts in it, too, right?
I forgot if it was started in 5 or 6, but, like, there was at least
They're
one
real
real-life hostess from the hostess clubs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, yeah. And there's real brand names and stuff like everywhere, like more and more as the games go on. It's incredible.
Wow. Well, how about you, Dracologist? What kind of collection would you like to see?
Here's the thing: I don't do collection. I don't think like I ever had any kind of game collection. I would be cared like I very nitpicky about what I take. So like. I would like to get back a disc I used to have, which had like 2,000 megabytes of old school game demos in it. But
that would be interesting, like the Jam Pack collections or something.
Yeah, some sort of like it had games like Virtuoso on it, which
demos are right up my alley because you get to see differences between them and the final product.
Yeah, and I used to love getting.
The game was
The
game was divided up like demos, sharewares, Epic Mega Games, and Apogee software. Like Apogee and Epic was so big back then that they had their own category. And there was a lot of interesting games. For example, there was a game called Threat, like Threat.
Threat, yeah.
Like it was interesting because, like like when you play like top-down action games of that type of era, you would have like left goes left, up goes up, right goes right.
Sure.
This had tank controls.
Oh, old school tank controls.
Oh wow.
Yes, like
damn, that's different.
Like backpedaling was slower, going forward was like faster.
That's actually probably more disorienting than like the 3D tank controls, because from a 2D perspective, it's like you'd expect 2D controls.
Wow.
And it was a pretty good sort of this alien style horror game where you go you see the entire map, you see your own little avatar of character, but you don't see the monsters until you have line of sight.
Oh wow, okay.
And you had to go through various missions, like killing all monsters, getting to the exit, destroying specific items or stockpiles on the map, and various mix of those deaths. And even there were missions that had time limit on it. Okay. So yeah, and it even had a versus mode where you could fight with your other players.
That's kind of cool.
And it was also yes.
Go ahead. No, just go ahead because I was going to change the subject. Go ahead.
And it was what it was. I know it has a level editor, a versus mode. I kind of forgot what I wanted to say.
Was there like co-op or competitive co-op?
Yes, no, not competitive, but like it was a 3-player game. Like you could, 3-person could use a single keyboard.
That's pretty intense.
We fucking love that game demo. Sadly, like you can have the where I kind of like you find it on Abandonware sites, but every time you try to play it, it's basically says like later the other 2 episodes is not available. Like so you don't have the actual game.
The shareware. No, the thing I was gonna mention was like just speaking of old school games in general. What would be cool is just see like a PC collection of Doom and Doom 2. I still think you can reasonably easily get, but Final Doom just disappeared off the face of the earth like ever since its original release. It'd be cool to see like Doom, Doom 2, and Final Doom again. Also, Duke Nukem. I know that Duke Nukem kind of disappeared off of Steam and GOG because, well, I don't know about Steam, but GOG certainly. Like Duke Nukem 3D because partly because of the re-release of the new game the re-release of Duke Nukem 3D, like I think on like PS4 and stuff. But
no, it's back up.
Is it back up? Okay, because I know one thing that was an issue for it was that the med kits had like the red cross and they were replaced by like pills in the new version or something like that. But what would be cool to see is Duke Nukem 3D and I forgot what the name of the company was. Something with Sun in it. I don't know if it was Sunsoft, but like they released like the Miami Beach like set of levels of Duke Nukem and also like Duke It Out in DC, which was just throughout Washington DC. I just remember thinking that was like the coolest idea of just going through like real world locations. With Duke Nukem 3D.
And I mean that's what a lot of people did with WADs back in the day anyways. Like they made like local landmarks and stuff like that.
I know about the Plutonium pack.
Yeah, the Plutonium pack. That's what I was talking about with Final Doom. It came with Plutonia and Evolution. It was kind of like 2 games in one as Final Doom. Oh, and also regarding Duke Nukem, it would be pretty cool to see Duke Nukem 1 and 2. Like not 3D, but like the 2D like action platformers where you're the bad guy of Duke Nukem 1 is Dr. Proton. Like Duke Nukem Forever references him briefly, and Duke Nukem 2 was like an evolution of Duke Nukem 1. Like the gameplay was better, the sprites were bigger, the music was way cooler. You were going up against aliens, but like, you know how Duke Nukem 3D begins when you're on the rooftop and your little yellow spaceship goes flying? You're like, damn, those alien bastards are gonna pay for shooting up my ride. Like that was your ride in Duke Nukem 2. So like, you flew home after beating the final boss, and you don't even fucking land, and you're shot down and Duke Nukem 3D begins. You get no break between games. It's ridiculous.
You get no breaks no more because the developer is now Gearbox, and
I know. But I mean, like in a lot of games though, it's like I was having a good vacation, but then I was called out. But like Duke Nukem 2 to 3D, like there's nothing. Like on your way home, you get shot down.
Honestly, I think at one time like 100% at Manhattan Project.
Oh, that's insane. That was the PS1 game, right?
It was on PC as well. It was fun. It's a fun little platform. Like it goes back to Duke Nukem 2 with 2.5D style.
I've seen screenshots of it, I think, but I haven't actually played it. And there was also like Duke Nukem 0 Hour, right? Where you're going like in time travel.
I heard about Planet of Babes, but I don't know about 0 Hour.
I've heard of Planet of the Babes, but I don't know anything about it. The 0 Hour, I think, like the gimmick you're going into various time periods.
What I know about Planet of Babes, that was incredibly interesting, that for some reason I think one of its trailer had Static X push it for its soundtrack, which is like that is like hardcore industry, like is a hardcore sort of nu metal for Duke Nukem.
Yeah.
That was a little bit unusual.
Huh.
Well, anyways, I used to remember those collections back in the day. Like PC Gamer would give you a gigantic disc full of like shareware versions and demos.
Those were so cool.
And they would put tons of stuff on CDs back.
Honestly, I found most of my games through those kind of CDs, but those things are tantalizing.
It was just so good.
Back then there was no Steam. Everything was on disc, and there was no shops around to buy those discs.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I remember everybody had one of those 50 games, 60 games, like I think like something like that, like 80 games for DOS and some for Windows or whatever.
That's how I played the original XCOM.
Oh wow, XCOM.
Yeah, the original XCOM was on this PC Gamer disc from way back in the day. Really cool stuff. I used to be really big into demos because it was such a fun way to figure things out. Before
that's how I played God of Thunder back in the day, episode 1.
Yeah. I mean, I used to subscribe to official PlayStation magazine, and they used to give you a new demo disc every month. And
well, like I said to Dracologist, the jam pack discs.
Yeah, jam pack discs were another one, and they would give you all of these. They would have a lot of funky games on there. Like that's how I found out about No One Can Stop Mr. Domino, which is a cult hit now. I bought that back in the day because of this. Silent Bomber, that's another one.
Yeah.
You know,
this game really blows. Is that the one?
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
That's it. Yep.
That was an interesting game.
I love that game.
Like I never thought that sticky bombs would be that awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an amazing game. Definitely everybody should play.
By the way, going to demos in general, I had told Vice this on the phone, but like I was looking through my old like computer discs to see if there's any stuff I should sell or whatever, if there's something I'm never gonna play again, and I found that I had a demo disc, and I have no clue where this came from. I don't know if my parents got it from somewhere or what, but I have this mysterious disc with some demos on it, and like when you put the disc in, it asks for like language options, and one of the options is like Romanian. Like,
wow.
Where did this disc come from?
I had some like very interesting sort of demo disc. Like, I had one that had Chasm Beyond the Rift on it.
Well, no, but that's the thing with this demo disc. This didn't have a demo for it. It had some wallpapers for the then upcoming Diablo 2. But what really got me was that like it actually has the demo of the PC release. I mean, obviously PC release, but of the first Metal Gear Solid. But it also has a demo for fucking Blair Witch 2. It's like,
wow.
All right, that's a game that exists. That's actually tried it. It's fucking slow and weird.
That's nuts.
Yeah. No thanks is the correct answer, by the way. Yes.
Like, I am a connoisseur in horror. I do like my Amnesia Descent. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Don't be. Blair Witch 2 did not look very good.
Piggybacking off of going back to the original thought, I do want to see a Konami collection other than something like Castlevania, because Castlevania is like one of the only series in which they will do that kind of thing with. You know, maybe even we'll be lucky enough to get a Contra collection of some kind.
That'd be cool.
Of some kind, but they historically haven't treated their old franchise as well. Like, I would love to see another collection where they made awesome shmup collections on the PSP for. They had a Parodius collection, a Gradius collection, a Salamander collection, and Twinbee collection. Bundle all of those together, or even don't bundle them all together. Like, just put them in HD and on a TV, and those collections were amazing. They even added features to some of the old games that didn't originally have them, which is amazing. I really wish that these things, like Konami would get off their asses and do them. I mean, like, why don't we have Sunset Riders, for instance, on a modern
game?
Yeah. Why don't we have those on modern systems?
Let me answer this, because it's not a pachinko machine.
Yeah, right. And Sunset Riders, by the way, even regarding stuff like that, Sunset Riders, which was released on the Super Nintendo back in the day, one thing that would be really cool is releasing a dual pack of Sunset Riders and Sunset Riders, like the console and the arcade version.
The Super Nintendo version was quite good.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just the differences are like in terms of like movement and animation and stuff. Like I remember on Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection, they give you Altered Beast and Altered Beast, so you can see the differences between the Genesis and the arcade release, which was kind of cool. I mean, it's still the same game, but like the arcade one looks a little better, has a little more animation, just like Golden Axe 1 and Golden Axe 1. You know, the original arcade game has better animation, but the Genesis game is like way more flat and 2D with less movement, but you get an extra level and boss, so it's like, huh.
Yeah. So I love it when they do that kind of thing. SNK just did a really wonderful job doing that as well. They include the arcade and NES versions of every game
so
that they
good.
can. They don't need to do that at all. And in fact, it's a lot of extra work. So it's not even just games, right? That they're including. They're including like entire histories by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
What if Konami finally got off their asses and put every Contra game and also like including the arcade versions of Contra?
That would be interesting,
you know?
Especially because there's that one Sega Genesis Contra game, so it'd be cool to see it like with its contemporaries.
Yeah, Contra Hardcore kind of gets shafted, which is a shame, and so does Castlevania Bloodlines. Like their Genesis versions always kind of get shafted, which is a big shame. It's a big shame because those two entries in those series are two of my favorites in those respective series. I mean, Konami's output wasn't always the best on the Genesis. There were a couple like Sunset Riders. Well, Sparkster's okay. It's okay. But the Rocket Knight Adventures is one of my favorite games of all time.
No, but I mean, like they'll throw out like one thing for the Genesis. You know, you have Rocket Knight Adventures and Sparkster, and Genesis gets a different Sparkster. You have like 100 Castlevanias. Genesis gets one. You know, like here you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes it was half-assed. Is going to be my point. Hyperstone Heist is basically like a downgraded Turtles in Time.
Except you fought like Tatsu.
Yeah, like, okay. There's a couple unique things about it, but it's basically Turtles in Time, but not as good.
Yeah.
And
with Genesis versions of the music.
Yeah, the Genesis version of Sunset Riders is awful. It's missing two characters and a bunch of levels and stuff. So it's not even worth playing. It's just a downgrade. Especially when
I don't even know if this is Konami, but isn't Genesis Zombies Ate My Neighbors also a downgrade?
It is. You want to play the Super Nintendo version. It's not bad. I would say that version's pretty good, but the Super Nintendo one's just overall better.
Actually, you know what I just thought of, which would be amazing? Now, again, I'm kind of fudging this because it's not so much for the sake of collection, but for the sake of existence. I would love to see a bunch of mobile games like get console or PC releases. Like the Room is slowly reaching Steam. I would love to see more mobile games, including dead ones. Like again, they're not even good, but the Silent Hill phone games, just on principle, just bring them back.
Yeah, and that would be really nice. I would love to see the id RPG games from like way back in the day, the Java phone games. They made Doom RPG 1 and 2 and Wolfenstein RPG. Why not put those on like Switch or something? That would be really cool. And those games are great. It wasn't like they weren't like, they were consolations for their their format. They actually worked with what they were doing.
Oh, and I've also mentioned this before, but I would love to see a collection of the Learning Company's Super Solver games.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
I would think that GOG would put those up eventually.
You can find them free somewhere in some sites.
You can, but I'd like them to be officially released.
Yeah,
I don't know.
In widescreen. I mean,
you can
and
find
1080p.
anything somewhere, but like I would like them to like come back in a modernized way, or be modernized to play on current systems.
Yeah, I would also like a No One Lives Forever collection. That would be another one.
That was a thing.
Yeah, I wish.
Was that Monolith?
Yes, it was. That's like the big Monolith game that's never gotten like a re-release or anything. There's also Alien vs. Predator 2, I think, doesn't have an official re-release either. So that's a bit disappointing. So, but we're getting into like I guess we're getting into individual games
titles,
but just basically collections of hard to find games that or hard to run games. We would really love these.
Cyber Empire remake.
What is Cyber Empire?
Cyber Empire is a turn-based mech-like game where you controls territories on a continent, and when you engage with an enemy, like or another player, the turn-based games turn into a top-down mech driving game. It's not very good top-down wise because if someone gets in, like it's very hard to strafe out. Like there is no strafing, and the AI takes advantage of the guided missiles way too easily.
Well, it sounds like something at least that's interesting.
It is,
which would be.
My
good.
friend kept beating the hell out of me with it, but it was a remarkably well-made game.
Yeah, I mean, with collections, I don't necessarily need every game on it to be like stellar. It just has to be an interesting collection. Like the SNK collection has some like games that are not exactly the best games you ever played on it, but it's really cool with the presentation and the history and what they took care of with them, and it's fun to mess around with, and especially to see where that company came from. You know what I mean?
What kind of is the collection would be? This is a Superhero League of Hoboken would be in.
Oh yeah, I heard about that game. I heard it was great.
Yeah, I've played a bunch of it. That game is fucking amazing.
That's an old PC game, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's an old point-and-click PC that has battle screens, or PC game that has battle screens, where you're like goofy superheroes. Like you are the Crimson Tape, and your power is like making millions of charts and graphs and confusing people.
Wow, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's not even practical in game. It's just you're aware that that's a thing you could do.
I would love stuff like that. Oh man. So. I think we named some good things there. I mean, most of mine are going to be, arcade collections, because arcade games really, a very good amount of the really good arcade games never got a chance to shine on console. And some games are going to be doomed to obscurity. It's only going to be talked about by arcade nerds, like super baseball Batman and
Ninja Baseball Batman,
Ninja Baseball Batman, and games like that. The Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa, from Konami, that's never going to get a release.
If you didn't watch that TV show when you were a kid, that will mean nothing to you.
Yeah, but like it was a game that was a lot like Sunset Riders, so it was a cool game to play. It was basically like the unofficial sequel to it.
Dracologist, what you're saying?
It's just that they made a lot of these sort of cartoons into beat 'em ups, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. They had Bucky O'Hare. They had Bucky O'Hare, which was a cartoon as well.
Wanted to say that they also made a Pirates of the Darkwater one.
Yep.
Oh yeah, there was a platformer. I don't think Konami made that though.
That was a brawler, more likely. I don't know who made it. Probably Capcom. Not sure.
I don't think so. I think it was Pirates of Darkwater. That was for Super Nintendo, right?
That sounds right.
Maybe. I've seen it once.
That was one of those series where like everybody loved it. It's like SWAT Cats, but it didn't last for whatever reason.
Yeah, probably some behind the scenes like weirdness or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, there were 3 seasons. That's pretty good.
Okay.
That's pretty
good. The show
good.
never ever ended.
I hate that.
But it didn't get an ending. Yeah, that was it. I think.
Like they reached the pivot point, but followed that, there was nothing.
Yeah. No, it was made by Sunsoft. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we should move on to our regular segments here.
Yes.
because we are running a little late. But I think you get the idea here. Please definitely let us know what kind of collections that you would want to see, and if you would want any special features done to them or any improvements in the comments below here. And unfortunately, I did not weigh myself today. I just kind of forgot, and then I ate and threw myself off. So I will have to weigh myself after Thanksgiving this week. So, but we'll do it. We'll do it because we want to keep on track.
Sure.
We want to keep on track. So, if you could, Lotus, please move on to our comments here.
Mm-hmm. So General Ledger says, this is in response to my line last week. I'm flattered, but no, you can't join my family, Lotus. It stinks, I know, but feel free to spread our riddle gift-giving tradition. I will. All right, so Fakafon says...
You go up to your dad and riddle me this, and
yeah,
and
other
he's
people's families
do
riddles? Have we tried that? All right, so...
Get out of my house!
So Fakafon says, I'll give an honorary mention to Time Commando, this is time travel games, for also being about time travel. It's fun to see how time travel in games like Time Splitters 2, for example, is a lot less about the time traveling itself, and more of an excuse to make levels based on different periods of time. Like I said a second ago about Duke Nukem 0 Hour, Prince of Persia uses time itself as a mechanic. I mean, remove the time travel from Time Splitters and you can just say you're traveling to different dimensions or something. That is true. Josh 111888 or 111,888 says, this is regarding favorite types of levels. He says, I always enjoy walking through partially destroyed buildings in games. It's interesting to see how these logically built structures turn into mazes after some disaster. Certainly true. Also, contrary-wise, you also might be able to, walk through a hole in a wall where that would have normally, been a wall. So, the dynamic totally changes.
Honestly, I want to say that, if I may, that this would be always fun, but the Fallout series made it really, really boring, and all the post-apocalyptic things made it a little bit boring.
I'll take your word. I haven't played Fallout. So Baka Sensei has a longer one. Nowadays, there are more games with some part-time travel, like Titanfall, Dishonored, etc., and even a full game-based story, like the Forgotten Quantum Break or Life is Strange, etc. I just wish that Pyro Jack Frost or Mr. Ryu or Old Man Stomby could also share their take. Yeah, it'd be cool to hear what they say at this.
I really want to play Quantum Break.
For the previous question, we used to have a family gathering. This is traditions. We used to have a family gathering every Christmas Eve at one of the aunts' houses, and each family brought a specific kind of tamale, and they lasted until the day of the Three Wizard Kings. And following the gifts question, I guess the best gift hunt I have done was a doll for my niece from her favorite series, Miraculous Ladybug. And for this week's question, I'm not sure if I understood the question, but I guess my favorite... and for the record, yes, they did understand the question. My favorite kind of levels would be, nature taking back the cities. Like the ruins of Horizon Zero Dawn, or The Last of Us, where there's just growth everywhere, and it's the buildings are less prominent than the vines that are surrounding them, and that kind of stuff.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, that would be... that's a dynamic I hadn't really thought of, but it really is fascinating to see what used to be. Dark Souls doesn't exactly do nature taking over, but you can see that things were definitely different before from how they are now.
It's all about chaos.
Dark Souls is more decay.
What was it?
Dark Souls is more decay.
What is decay?
Decay. D-A-C-I.
Oh, decay. Oh, I didn't hear that right. I was thinking the letters D and K instead of decay.
Like Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
it's all about Donkey Kong.
Dungeon Keeper? What? But yeah, it actually really is cool to see levels that nature has become the level. I'm trying to think of examples past Horizon Zero Dawn and Last of Us, and it's hard to think of them, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Fragile Dreams, kind of. Sort of.
Skyward Sword has a bunch of that in it.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. A lot of it is about time shifting.
If I want to say one specific formation is when you see a tree growing through something, and
yes,
its growth dislocates everything.
Actually, perfect example. The first Nier, the first proper dungeon of Nier, did that. There's a tree going through the entire thing. Also, actually, the first proper dungeon of Skies of Arcadia.
Oh yeah.
What was I forgot what that temple was called. It's the first temple you enter, but like
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That is a perfect
temple.
Example of like you can't even. What was it Dracologist?
Moon? Well, not something moon. Something
yeah, it's definitely something moon. I know, but the whole game revolves around moons.
Moon Lake Temple, I think.
Maybe. Something like that. But yeah, like there are doors you can't even open because there's growth blocking them. And I also, this is an even more specific example of this kind of level, but like it's also cool when the ancient growth like there are like there's forms of technology or statues that have been grown over, but then you activate the robot, so even though it's covered in moss, like the eyes light up when it's like oh there's still stuff that works down here. Like it's just kind of cool to see that stuff happen when it does. Like Uncharted plays with this sometimes. In the Uncharted games, you're in all these abandoned temples that don't look like what they used to the greatest degree, but you could still activate like ancient technology to a degree.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, those were the inputs. Just Baka Sensei just says, like I hope to make more comments. I've listened for a while, but I couldn't leave messages, and I hope the podcast grows and I'll keep listening on my day-to-day commute. So thank you very much for that, Baka Sensei as well. So the only other thing then is going to be the fan question, which is this is from Fakafan. Can you think of any games where the theme of the scene, or the game as a whole, is contradicted by gameplay? For example, Ogre Battle 64's theme is uniting the kingdom and eliminating injustice, avoiding conflicts, etc. But you're very encouraged to go out of your way and defeat as many units as possible for their loot. Or like Detroit Become Human. There's a scene where you have to find a person of interest in a hurry and there's a time limit, but like you just walk. I could also say Shenmue is a good example of this. The entire point of the game is you need to find Lan-Di now, and technically the entire game is on a time limit, but you could just fart around and like collect gachapon toys. That's not really the gameplay itself. It's more the player's choice, but you can like the game.
And the game. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. The slice of life like interactions are what the game is about.
Yeah, it is a lot of like, hey, how you doing? And like the game
story
never...
is there because it needs to be.
And the game never consciously pushes collecting, but it's a collectathon. It is.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a game like that. Like there are so many games where like your character's supposed to be a good guy and he's just like murdering people wholesale.
Well, even in Zelda, you're not murdering people, but you're breaking into people's houses, breaking their shit, and stealing their loot. Actually, this isn't really the game as a whole. It's more of a very specific. Well, no, this is what Fakafan said. The theme of the scene. Any game ever, and lots of games do this, where you over level and then you fight like the final boss of the game, but you're only halfway through the game, so the final boss is still supposed to be intimidating. So you beat the shit out of him, because it's not one of those cases where you have to lose the battle. You're supposed to like win the gameplay part, so you beat the piss out of the boss. But then the cutscene shows you getting destroyed, and you're like, wait, what? Come on. Like, I heard I haven't played it, but I heard Xenoblade 2, like the new one, is like really guilty of that, like all the time.
One just came to mind. So the Arrow Fighters games, Arrow Fighters 2 and 3 are two shmups that I like to play that are on Switch that were released on the Neo Geo. You're supposed to be like saving the world, against a menace. But throughout the course of the levels, you can actually like destroy landmarks, things like that. So it's like you could destroy like Ferris wheels, famous buildings.
Well, it's the same with EDF. You could blow up the entire town, but like whatever, stop the aliens.
and you get rewarded for it. Not only that, there are bonuses in these things. Okay. So
it's kind of funny.
It's generally I wanted to say like one of the main sort of perpetrator of ludonarrative dissonance is GTA.
I was just gonna mention that too.
Point,
I want to be so out of this crime syndicate. And
GTA 4 in particular is really.
So I'm just going to go down and going to race around the city for that. I'm gonna stick 3 sport cars into the same billboard, and I'm going to run around with a minigun.
Yeah. Well, Yakuza does something similar, where it's like, well, you have an urgent time. Well, no, it's more like Shenmue, but you have like an urgent thing you need to do because the big fight is tomorrow. But you could do all of your side quests now. It's like, wait.
Time for karaoke.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'll just sing karaoke like all day and all night.
Like at the end of Final Fantasy VII, when like Ultima's coming to Earth or whatever, and or Genova or whatever, and whatever it is that's coming to Earth, like, and you have to hurry up. You could just go fuck off and do whatever you want while that's happening.
Yeah, there's no actual time limit. By the way, regarding a whole game contradiction like Ogre Battle, Valkyria, I only played the first one, but Valkyria Chronicles 1, the whole point of the game, and it's not even like the game's overall message, it's just like the way you're supposed to play the game is you're controlling army units. So you're going to want this character to go here, that character to go there to cover the most ground. This way we'll be able to stop this enemy and at least defend ourselves against that enemy. But like, if you want an A ranking on the level, it's the rankings are based in the number of turns you can complete the level in, and those requirements are fucking strict. So like, the only way to get an A ranking in almost every level in the game is to contradict the whole concept of fighting in a war and just take a single scout, because they could run the farthest, and just YOLO like every single mission. So like, all you have to do is kill this particular enemy or like touch the enemy flag. So even though you're sending one person into like
why would you
the enemy's barracks,
yeah,
it's like, I touched your flag, and they're like, oh, I guess we lose then. And it's like, like, even though it makes no sense at all, it's like, well, you triggered the game's win condition, so okay. So like, even though the whole point of the game is to manage an army, if you want to get an A ranking, you have to play with only 1 or 2 characters ever, and it makes no goddamn sense. I love Valkyria Chronicles, but like, those A requirements directly contradict the entire point of the game.
Yeah, I don't particularly like when it's like that.
Yeah, there's no management. It's just go there and don't die, and then I win.
Because getting a high ranking in something should show that somebody knows how to play these games especially well, and that's not playing the game.
I don't know
well.
if
it's kind of breaking it.
What I wanted to say is somehow relatable is, but I think a little bit Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War is a little bit guilty of this, because you are playing this incredibly misery guts type of main character or characters, depending which part you of the gameplay, and at the same time every orc is a bombastic this personality that just joy to listen to. Like you would just wanted to see these things, use greenskins kill each other by the thousand just to see what kind of dumb, silly things they're going to do with each other,
nice.
Say to each other, and why your character is constantly brooding about how he wants to die and how he was denied death.
Yeah, that might not be gameplay, but that is definitely like a tone dissonance for sure.
Yeah, I like that games are actually pointing that out nowadays. So it's good. It's good that they're pointing it out. I mean, like the first game to really point it out was like Uncharted 2. They're like you're just a psychopath.
Yeah.
Well,
and again, I've given this example.
Constantly japing psychopath.
Yeah, and like I've given this example 100 times, but in the Tomb Raider reboot, like when you're asking the villain, like, how many people have you killed all these years just to try to get this goal you're trying to achieve? And he's like, how many people did you kill this weekend trying to get to me? Like, for real, you've killed everyone. Like, Jesus Christ. And the funny thing is, in the new Yakuza games, like specifically the new ones, because you get little EXP, like, and it tells you why when you get it, like, you completed this mission or you beat this battle. But on your street fights, it says like, when you beat the guys attacking you, it says defend yourself and you get the XP for it. But like, technically, yeah, they're the ones who instigate the fight, because I can't make a fight happen. They have to do it. But I am the one who's looking for trouble. So it's like, I don't know about defend yourself. Like, I didn't attack, but I definitely made them want to fight me. So it's like,
Yeah. Well, Does anybody have anything else to add to that?
For tonal dissonance, yeah, I'm not really sure. The only other thing I could think of, and I don't even know if a specific game does this, but like if there are games where you have to survive, like you're on an island or whatever, but you're really good at the game, so like you're making yourself a little paradise and you're just chilling, but your character's like, oh no, when will I be saved, or something like that. I can't think of a specific example, but if you get good enough at a game, then like the threat condition greatly diminishes, but your character's still like miserable.
Wow. Yeah. I totally get it. Yeah, I think I'm pretty good on my angle. Anybody else want to have anything to add?
I don't have much games that had encounter. I didn't encounter much games that had narrative dissonance.
It's all right. So I think we got some good ones there. So I think we'll wrap up the show for this week. So that is the show. We want to thank our fans who contributed questions, our hosts that contributed questions. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While they're key, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. And also interact with these questions as well. We want to get your reactions. We read them on the air, and we would love to interact with you in that way. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Steam, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or even get involved in a chat with me and other patrons, then perhaps on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account. There it is, which can be found on patreon.com/.
We're all very tired. Sorry.
First try every time.
Yes, we are.
And go ahead, Dracologist.
Yeah, and we can find me on Steam, Skype, and on the Lair of the Crocosword on the Discord channels.
All right. Well, we will catch everybody next week on Tuesday after we've all had a bit of turkey.
Indeed. Until next time.
Well, you guys have turkey.
Well,
good evening.
You could have Thanksgiving too.
No, we don't.
It doesn't even begin to make sense.
We'll invite you over. It'll be
all right.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm gonna hope that all that mine's over.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go to sleep.
Yes. Until next time,
We'll catch you later.
Good evening.
Bye.